Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to talk a little bit about accelerating the green transformation of SMEs. In this short presentation, I will try to just set the scene. Why do we need the change? What is the future outlook for the SMEs and their challenges? What is the opportunities and the business case? And how can we practically accelerate the green transition of small and medium-sized companies? So the need for change is pretty obvious. We have a population growth and will be close to 10 billion people by 2050. We are all experiencing the effects of climate change and looking into temperature rises. And many are experiencing resource scarcity. We have found out that we do not have unlimited resources, and the Earth cannot regenerate as quickly as we use the resources. This is one of the reasons why the UN did the 17 global goals and why 192 countries signed the agreement to support these global goals for sustainable change, because we do only have one Earth and we need to take care of it. So how does this then materialize? The population growth is a sign that we need to look at more than just the profit and the economic side of things. So we need to look at three bottom lines, not only economic, but also the environmental and the people side, society side of things. The climate change, the action is getting very clear, and I think nobody is in doubt that we need to look into green transition, save our energy and our CO2 emissions. And then for the resource scarcity, looking at circular economy and reuse materials in a better way, upcycling, recycling, and all these things, reduction of waste are very important factors. These are all addressed in the European Green Deal and is materialized in legislation coming in the EU. And this legislation will be a reality for the big corporate organizations, but it will also hit the SMEs indirectly, because once due diligence reporting is enforced, the large companies will come to the smaller companies and ask for documentation for numbers, CO2 emissions, documentation on workers' rights, etc. So the smaller companies, even though they may not be directly affected by the legislation, they will still be forced to live up to the same rules and regulations because their clients will ask for it. And the numbers speak for themselves. So 95% of all businesses in the world are small and medium sized, and they represent between 60 and 70% of all employment, and they contribute at least to 50% of the global GDP. So, and even if we include the informal SMEs, not formally registered, that number will be even higher. So just looking at some numbers, there are 400 million small and medium-sized companies in the world. In the EU, 23 million. In Turkey, 3.3 million. And even though 3 million of those are, or more than 3 million are micro companies, very, very small companies, maybe just one person, there are still close to 200,000 medium-sized companies in Turkey alone. The number is smaller for Denmark, but there are so many small companies and they are a very important part of the green transition. It's not enough that the big companies do it. So if we look just at a few numbers, SMEs account for half of the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. They consume 13% of the global energy demand, and they employ maybe 2 billion people globally are employed by an SME. So they are very a small part of the problem, but a very important part of the solution. If we look at just a few pinpoints of facts, then the SMEs are slightly less likely to take action than the larger companies, but yet a lot of SMEs are already working to minimize their waste, reuse water, design products that are easier to maintain, extending the life cycle of things, or selling scrap material. And this whole thing about considering waste a resource and not waste is at the core of circular economy. But there are, of course, both challenges and advantages for the SME segment. The challenges are that they lack the knowledge and they lack the skills, competences to work with this agenda. They feel it's a very large area. It's very hard to understand all these new words and new ways of thinking. They lack the funding. They find that they need to do investments, and some of these investments can be pretty steep. And of course, resources, time is always at the essence of SMEs. They don't have a department to care for sustainability. So those are some of the challenges that they are facing. But at the same time, they are very agile. They are quick to take action. They have a simple and short decision-making process. They don't need to have it in all kinds of departments and ask everybody. Usually the owner will say, let's do it, and we start tomorrow. So this is a big advantage for the SMEs. They're very quick to take action. Also, with the SMEs, even a small investment can make a big change. So these are some of the things that will work for the SME to take action. And furthermore, looking into the motivation of SMEs, the business case. So a lot of these issues with reducing the use of resources, reducing energy, reducing waste and the material use. These are all straight down to the bottom line and increasing the profit of the companies, but also innovation and finding new products, new business models, new ways of services. This can increase the top line and actually increase the revenue for businesses as well. And then there's a whole area of risk and risk reduction. Looking into resilience of even the supply chains, as you and Global Compact touched upon many times in their talk a bit earlier on. This takes up a lot of time for the SMEs. They are part of these value chains. The value chains are global, and the risks are obvious for many of them. So the reduction of these risks will also benefit the companies and actually make a good profit. So this business case by Bob Willard from IBM is just looking at best practices. So even if the SMEs actually go beyond best practice, there will be an even bigger business case for them. So the motivation for the SMEs are typically customer demand, legislation, new laws, new rules, new regulation that will make them move and change. There's also internal pressure, both from younger employees, but also to get a new workforce. There's a big lack of skilled workers. So the companies and SMEs that work with sustainability at the core, they will be have easier access to the new workforce. Then, of course, there's the branding. Many have seen that this is good for their business. It's good branding to work with these things. The business case is next to you, but also the availability of support is very important motivation for the SMEs. So the more we support them, the more we show that we can help them do this, that would actually also increase the motivation. And then nudging, that is looking at your neighbor. Oh, he's doing it too. Oh, I know this guy. He has a company that's similar similar to my size company. If he can do it, I can do it. So having equal partners to look at and be inspired by is very important for the SMEs, because the big companies may be too big for them to compare themselves to. So legislation is needed. SMEs often need a burning platform to do it. They are not all very visionary and will not all go in front, but when the legislation and the rules and regulations come, they will apply. The support, as I was talking, also access to knowledge, access to education, public programs, access to consultants that can actually help them do the transition is very important. Promoting innovation in the public systems, showing these business opportunities, maybe using the 17 global goals and the 169 targets as an inspirational source to promote innovation and new solutions is needed. And then efficiency incentives, investments, as we heard earlier on, how to do waste management, how to create local symbiosis, transport reductions, etc. All these incentives to save energy, to save resources, that is also very important to accelerate this transition. I will just finish off by sharing a couple of examples from Denmark as how we get this from targets and goals and visions down to very practical tools. So Denmark signed the Paris Agreement. That made the Danish government set a target of 70% CO2 reductions by 2030, very ambitious. Then they had to get the municipalities to join in because they couldn't make these reductions without everybody pitching in. So every municipality voluntarily, but everybody did it, made a local plan as to how they could tap into the CO2 savings. And in one municipality, Viborg, that resulted in creation of a UN 17 business center. And this center was made to help the SMEs and small startups, entrepreneurs in the local community to start the green transition, to understand how they could work with sustainability in their existing business model, helping them with knowledge, facilitating networks to help them share ideas, and promote the UN global goals that were used as a framework in this business center. So a very concrete initiative on how to help SMEs move forward. So in short, accelerating the green transition will mean that we have to support and increase the support for the SMEs. They need financial aid, maybe recovery funds from COVID or vouchers to help get consultancy aid. They need education and learning, both in how to do CO2 calculations, how to set the targets, how to actually implement and take action to reach their goals, how to do ESG reporting. We say you must document it. How can we do it? They need education on this. Different projects that can help them, public or public-private projects. In Denmark, there's been a project called Climate Ready SME, where SMEs got help to do their CO2 calculations. There's an SDG business accelerator trying to help SMEs understand their role in business development on the sustainability and using that for exports. And also ensure that legislation is at least not in the way, not only to raise the lever, but also, for instance, an example in Denmark where it was not allowed to use excess heat from the production to actually heat up the production facility. They were taxed on this. This was working against, using this heat that was already created. So that law was abolished. And this is very important to look at the laws and legislation and rules in the light of sustainability and circular economy, so that we don't have rules that will not allow the SMEs to move forward on this agenda with all their great ideas. Thank you for listening. I hope you were inspired to accelerate the green transformation, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like to hear more. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.